Hey everybody, Tony D with a call it a bonus video, if you will. Um, or I might save this for tomorrow. I don't know. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Don't forget to check out the two bonus videos on Bitchute and Rumble. Whenever I post this, I'm not sure when. This really isn't political, but it kind of is because it impacts politics. But I'm not going to talk about politics specifically. I'm going to talk about media and just sort of look over this chart. It's from webfx.com. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. But here's who owns the media. This is 6 corporations that own almost all media. So you got National Amusements, Summer Redstone. So let's say you see an opinion on CBS. Will you see a different opinion on BET, Nickelodeon, CW, VH1, MTV, anything Viacom produces, Showtime, Spike, if you remember that, I don't really recognize most of these other CMT, Flicks, Epics. I'm sure you can see by the logos there's a lot of different things. It's not just CBS. There's multiple CBS, and then there's multiple BET spin-off type channels and shows and production companies. Also, there's print. They own Pocket Books, Simon and Schuster. You've got CBS Games, video games, internet. They own GameStop, CBS Interactive, TV Guide, Game FAQs, Tech Republic, CNET. I didn't know they owned CNET. TV.com, Last FM. So, I was in an argument with a relative of mine about how they say, well, you don't watch a varied group of media. And they were arguing, no, I do. We watch all the different channels. Here's a bunch of channels just owned by the same company under CBS. And there are only 6, right? Here's Disney, A&E, ABC, ESPN, Vice. That's another channel. ABC Family, ABC Television Group, ABC Studios, A&E Networks, Indie Films, History Channel, the various History Channels, Lifetime Channel, Lucas Films, Lucas Arts, Lucas Online, Military History Channel, of course Walt Disney Studios and the Disney related things, the Marvel movies, Disney Plus obviously is here somewhere, digital distribution, and you got several ESPN channels, ESPN College, you've got ABC Spark, you've got print. My God, they have Marvel Comics and Ultimate Comics. They also have CrossGen. I knew those guys. Icon, Disney Publishing Worldwide, ESPN Books, ABO Press, that looks like, a bunch of others, a book group, video games. They own GameStar and something called Rocket Pack. Now, they're not all known, but... And Pixar. Pixar, you know that one. That's a lot, too. Again, do you think all those channels, if they presented opinions, but they were just a little bit different, basically the same, would you think you were getting, varied opinions? You probably would. You would say, well, I heard this on A&E, and I heard something similar on ABC News, and I heard something also on Vice. If you didn't know they were all owned by the same company, you would think, well, I'm getting 3 opinions, and they seem to agree, right? And that's assuming that, Disney and CBS aren't in agreement. Because if they're both in an agreement, well, then you got even more. You got Time Warner, CNN, big news thing. CW, Time Warner, Warner Brothers, True TV, TNT, TBS, HBO, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, which is technically separate. I think they're going to get their own channel soon, or they're going to be closed altogether. I think it's all going kids in the Cartoon Network. Hulu, TCM, Turner Broadcasting. Also print, DC Comics, Time Magazine, Time Life. Video games. I can't even read them all. They've got a bunch of different ones. A bunch of different investments. They've got music. They own music. They own Time Warner Cable. It's pretty big. It's, it's huge. And again, you could watch all these different channels. I mean, obviously CNN has opinions, right? Are they going to bleed through to, I don't know, news on the CW? HBO has news shows. Are they going to be that different? Because companies are going to have Castle Rock Entertainment, I just noticed. And is that Cinemax? Yeah, Cinemax. Otherwise known as Skinemax back in the day. Are they going to differ all that much? Probably not, because, I mean, a corporation usually has sort of limits of the behavior and opinions they'll tolerate, especially today. So look at all that they control. And this is just 3 companies. Here's the 4th company, Comcast. This one is particularly woke, right? Because you got MSNBC and NBC. Those are super woke, 2 super woke news organizations, both of them. There's almost no daylight between them that I've seen, but they also own CNBC. They've got a sports channel, all sports. Yeah, they're down here on Hulu too. Do they share the ownership with Time Warner? I guess maybe they do. So there's a tie-in right there. It's the same logo. Unless somebody got this wrong. Universal Studios, a bunch of different divisions there. I think there's a Universal TV. There's Telemundo. I know they have news on Telemundo. Sci-Fi Network, yeah. Well, that's not going to have news. USA Network, maybe. I'm not sure. MLB. NBC Universal, which is slightly different. Focus Features, Focus World, DreamWorks. Comcast Sportsnet, Bravo, Entertainment Television. I mean, they're going to have similar opinions. I think. In my opinion, they would. They're owned by the same company. And you could say, well, they'll have different opinions. They're not going to censor people. Yeah, but it's going to be in this box, that corporate box. They don't want to rock the boat. And, of course, they own Comcast, Xfinity, my local network, which has local monopolies. I can't get any other television or internet service other than Comcast Internet. I can't. I mean, not that I know of, unless it's like, through the phone or through a cellular device. Here are their ventures. They own a bunch of stuff online. About.com, that used to be a thing. Not so much anymore. Bunch of Vox Media. I mean, Vox Media, that's super woke. So they own Vox and MSNBC and NBC. That's 3, in my view, extremely woke media organizations constantly. They all hate Trump. All 3 of those organizations hate Trump. They own the Weather Channel. Here's your woke weather forecast. I mean, that's not the way it should be. Look, I don't care that you've got 3 woke channels, but they're owned by the same company. They're pretending like they're, in my view, separate entities, when really they're just the arms of one. And here's News Corp. Now this is the Fox Corp, right? This is now a smaller one. Part of it was sold off to Disney, but, this is slightly different. I mean, these guys are, I would say they're more like Republican Party neocons, but they shrink every day in terms of their political clout. So you got various Fox things. FX. Not as big. My TV. Cult. what was that, Speed? Or I can't even read some of these logos. Nat Geo, Fox News, of course, and not as many, but they have Fox Wireless in music, and in print they own HarperCollins and a bunch of other New York Post, Washington, Wall Street Journal. So I mean that's, I think, the smallest ones, but that's still pretty influential. And considering that, Fox is kind of the only sort of right-wing source, and quite frankly, the base is pissed at them at what happened back in January. So it doesn't even represent the base. Not really, if you're talking politics. And these days, does it even pay good money? If Murdoch's out, his progeny seem to be more woke, seem to be leaning the other way. So you're probably losing all of Fox. And finally, you got Sony. I think Sony's the last one. Yeah. Sony's got television and film. They don't really have channels. True Channels, TriStar, Triumph Films, Crackle, a few other things, but they're not as prominent in terms of television channels, but they are a big media company, not as newsy as the others. They're big into music. So, I mean, they still have influence. And here you have the breakdown of the money. Comcast is the biggest one. $148 billion. Bigger than Disney. And Comcast, for my money, is more woke. It's the wokest of the lot. Disney comes in second. Disney's pretty woke too. Then you got Time Warner. Kind of woke. And finally you got News Corp, which at $56 billion, not really woke, but kind of heading down that path. National Amusements, it's actually the smallest. I wonder why they listed that first, and then Sony's smaller than that. But Sony doesn't really have any news, but certainly National Amusement does. CBS, Fox, NBC, ABC. Time Warner doesn't even have that. So you got the three major networks. The biggest one is NBC, and they have three separate channels that are woke. So if you watched Vice, MSNBC, and NBC, and you heard their opinion on, say, I don't know, the Derek Chauvin trial, do you think there would be much daylight between them? I doubt it. I doubt it. It would just be variations of woke. Do you think those three channels are going to report on, say, the activities of Antifa the same way they're going to report on the activities of the Proud Boys? No way. Not in my view. I think they're all politically skewed. But the people I was arguing with the other day, they think, well, I watch ABC, and then sometimes I watch CBS, and I'll even watch Fox. There's not much daylight between these media companies in terms of their opinion. Yeah, they've got some variation, but it's all inside that box. We all know that X, Y, and Z happened. We all know this to be true until, maybe it's not. I mean, we all know the Gulf of Tonkin was the start of the Vietnam War, and totally not our fault, right? We all know the Iraqis have weapons of mass destruction, right? We all know that. Didn't almost all these... Oh, it was Warner has CNN. Didn't all these media companies, maybe not, I'm going too far back with Gulf of Tonkin, but certainly weapons of mass destruction, I remember almost no dissent. Fox led the way on that one. But no dissent, even amongst MSNBC. I don't think Vice was around then, but MSNBC, I remember Chris Matthews touting how presidential George W. Bush looked when he landed on the aircraft carrier and said, "Mission accomplished." He was unbeatable in those moments, according to Chris Matthews. According to Chris Matthews, oh, so presidential. It was an amazing day. I think it was because, he was just powerful in that moment. In that moment, Bush's numbers were through the roof. Everybody loved him. And nobody in media is going to cross him at that moment. Why? Why would they? He's at the top of his game, at the top of the world. Everybody's making money. And aren't these companies part of massive, massive multi-corporations that make money in other ways too? So, and even if you say, well, you got 6 different media organizations, they're probably going to be, each media organization's going to be different. That's only 6. That's only 6. If you talk about an issue like going to war and the war on terror, that's a very complicated issue. There's going to be more than 6 opinions on it. But when they're all in agreement, there's something very wrong. When all these news organizations are in agreement with each other, there's something very wrong with that. Because that says to me that they're all going, yeah, we're going to say this because it's in our monetary interest to say it. And that's what we want. It'll make us the most money. That has nothing to do with what's right, what's wrong, what's politically expedient or what's not. So I'll leave the link. So if you haven't looked at this, this has been something that's been a problem. And in the past, it wasn't like this. Hundreds of companies existed. They were all competing against each other. How can you have that much competition? And at the rate this is going, they're all collapsing into each other. They're getting bigger and bigger. And at some point, Sony's on the bottom here. How long before one of these companies decides, oh, let's buy up little Sony? Look at Comcast. Why couldn't they buy up little Sony and consume all that? They've got a bunch of stuff that Comcast doesn't have. And then you only have 5. Disney's definitely on board with that. They're trying to buy up Fox. They bought up part of it. Maybe they'll buy up the rest. And then maybe you got these other 2, and then Disney and Comcast will split those. But, look at Comcast, man. It's $60 billion bigger than Disney. Disney's taking it on the chin with their parks and movies. Comcast is big. It's big. They own a huge building in Philadelphia. I'm sure they own lots of buildings, but that's the one I remember. Is this what we want? A handful of companies owning all the media? How are we supposed to have a voice? How are we supposed to... There's so many different voices on the internet. And I've got people who argue, and they're protecting these. They don't know it, but they're protecting the corporations. Because that's what they've been fed, and they're defending what they know, but they're really just defending the narrative. Anyhow, I thought it was alarming. A lot of you probably already know this, but check out the link for yourself and be horrified, I guess.